Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us David A. Fields, who is the founder of Ascendant Consulting and author of the Amazon best-selling book, The Irresistible Consultant's Guide to Winning Clients. David, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike. I'm really delighted to be on your excellent show.
Well, you're welcome, and I've been looking forward to this interview because I have your book, read it, got underlined dog ears, and I always love when you can kind of drill in a little bit deeper even on the titles of a book because, you know, a consultant, obviously you want to speak to that group, but the Irresistible Consultant's Guide to what? Winning clients. Now, that is the goal of people in business, whether you're a consultant, coach, or it doesn't matter, but winning clients. But I love the concept or the mindset of winning clients because it really is not a battle per se, but when you get a client, it's a win, you know, because you've done a lot of work to set that stage and to make that first impression and second impression. And when you get that new client, it's a win. So give us a little bit of background on the book and explain kind of what the focus is.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you are so right. When anyone who's in this business knows, and obviously I talk with consultants all day long from all size firms, and anybody who's just won a client is happy. And even almost no matter what the size. I was talking with the CEO of a firm that does about $20 million a year in business yesterday, and he said, you know, we just won this gig, and it's only $40,000, but we won it, right? So you're right. It's always exciting and fun to bring in more business. And it's funny. It's also funny to me that you bring up the title. I personally never liked the title of this book, but we did just a ton of research, and people over and over and over again said this is what they wanted the title to be. So there you go. And well, in a way, that's emblematic of consulting. You have to do what the market wants, not what you want to do.
I was just going to say, I know that a lot of authors have done the same thing. And the first time I heard this concept was Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week, where he bought Google Ads or, online advertising and tested titles. And that was the title that won. And you said something really huge because we can get myopic in our offerings, our marketing, and we can go, this is my baby, this is my thing, I'm going to sell it. And in retrospect, looking back, it might be fitting a square peg in a round hole. But when you can research and then listen to what your audience wants, then all of a sudden you're just providing them what they've told you. And too many times consultants don't do that. They just run off and think this new program is going to be the bomb. And maybe it hits with a thud because they didn't do that little bit of extra research.
Yeah, you are dead on. Actually, I would say that one of the number one challenge, especially for small consulting firms, small service providers, is that they don't have impact in the market, meaning they're not offering what the market wants in a way that's compelling. So they're not hitting the right people at the right time with about talking about the right problem. And they're too busy saying, yeah, but this is what my background is. This is what I've done for 20 years, so I have to sell this. Well, no, you can pretty much, if you're smart, work on just about anything within reason if the market wants it. And when you find what the market wants, this is actually a remarkably easy business.
I agree, but you say something really interesting in your writing, which is you say that consultants shouldn't necessarily differentiate. And I think that's interesting, so I want to go deep on that. And it's interesting because I think we're all taught to do that. You do your research and you see that customers want X, and here's what I do, and I have a lot of competitors. Why are they going to make me the obvious choice? Why are they going to pick me? Somehow I've got to stand out. What's my competitive advantage? What's my unique selling proposition? So why would you say the consultants should not differentiate?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I was right where you are because I was trained in a blue chip consumer products goods company. That's where I started my career. So differentiation was really drilled into me. And it wasn't until I was in consulting for a while and spent a lot of time winning just a ton of business and talking to clients that I found clients aren't looking for different, especially when it comes to consulting and most professional services. They're not looking for different. What they're looking for is reliable. What they're looking for is credible. And if you offer a solution that seems very different, if you're really going out of your way to say, this is what we do that's much different, what a client hears is, this is someone who provides something that's untested. Yeah. This is someone who provides something that's, I don't know, it's outside the norm. And since so many consulting projects fail, and every executive you talk to, and probably everybody listening, has had an experience where you've hired someone and it hasn't gone well, you're less interested in different and more interested in solved. Whatever your problem is, getting it solved. And so that's what consultants should focus on, not trying to show how different they are, just showing that they are a reliable, credible solution to the client's exact problem.
And to be able to show that, you need to do that discovery process and research like we mentioned. Here's a question. For the I'm not going to say necessarily the typical prospect, but for many types of prospects that are busy, like you mentioned, that one client you have that's $20 million client, they don't have time for a lot of, lead in and ramp up and chit chat. They want to kind of just get down to business. So I'm getting to my question, which is, when you have a good idea of that need through your discovery process, do you feel like some of those old, so many of the sales trainers today will, hey, let's discover where they want to be. Let's discover where they're at. Let's show them the gap and really go in deep there to make that pain come out. And then I'm the solution. Do you feel like that can be a long drawn out process, or can you modify that kind of framework based on who you're talking to?
Well, you always want to obviously modify it based on who you're talking to. If someone is holding their pen over a check and ready to sign it, exactly. You say, yes, I'd be happy to cash that check. Here's who you make it out to. So you want to adapt yourself to your customer. That said, most consultants actually do try to rush the process to their own detriment, and that causes fewer projects to close. If you actually look at the numbers of close rates, as opposed to what people say, most people say, oh, well, as long as I get in there, I close them. I close everything. Well, I can tell you, because I look at the statistics with a ton of clients, mostly what they're doing is they're dismissing all the ones that they lost. Oh, well, that one doesn't count because. Yeah. Okay, well, all those didn't count because were rushed. The vast majority of them. They actually didn't take the time, not necessarily to do the, I'm not a big one on sales techniques, because I don't think consulting is sold. I think it's bought. But discovery is critical. Discovery is the key to becoming the obvious choice. Having a truly deep understanding, an intimate understanding of your client and what their drivers are and why they're considering bringing someone in is absolutely crucial. And if you don't know that, it's actually much harder to close the project.
And the only way to go discover that through the discovery process is asking questions. And pardon me?
I said righto, exactly right. Sorry.
Oh, good. I thought you said no, and I'm like, ooh, now we can go deeper on a whole other contrarian.
Yeah.
I think that's a big piece of an aha moment. And here's what I mean by that. There's books and programs written on, question-based selling. Well, whoever asks the question is the one in control. They're the one viewed as the expert. So having a good, deep questioning process to discover that information is huge. Do you find that, depending who you need to go through discovery with, the type of client, is it a solopreneur? Is it a $20 million business owner, CEO? Do you go through a verbal one-on-one on the phone or in-person questioning process, or could you do a pre-assessment where maybe it's a quick online, form they fill out to kind of get you prepped, and then maybe you can go deeper that way? Do you find any benefits one way or the other?
To win business, I find that there needs to be a conversation. Now keep in mind, most of the business I sell to corporate clients is in the six-figure range. And most of the business I even sell to consulting firms is solid 5 figures or up to 6 figures. And that kind of investment is rarely made just from a sort of an online questionnaire. I won't get enough information. What I can do with a couple of questions online is just pre-qualify and maybe knock some people out of the box.
Yes.
If they're not serious about it. But to win business, not to sell business, but to win consulting engagements that are, 5 figures, 6 figures, and I'll freely admit I've not sold a 7-figure project yet. That's a relationship, trust, talk with the person kind of exercise. Does that make sense?
It totally does, and that's where I was going with it, is only the online assessment as a pre-step to the discovery call, because I feel that some people get so busy, they're kind of getting on that phone call or that in-person meeting at Starbucks, and you're asking these questions, taking notes, but if you had some way to maybe even filter out, because if they're not willing to do a 5-question assessment or whatnot, then you don't even want to waste time talking to them. But yeah, you're exactly right. I don't care whether it's a $500 or a $50,000 engagement. People aren't going to go click buy now, add to cart. It's a relationship. So I think that a lot of people make that mistake, and then also they think, well, I'm selling because I'm doing social selling and I'm making retweets and tweets and posts, and we can go down a rabbit trail on that at a different time. But I know you would agree with that. So you got to be doing really good, solid relationship building, which leads to a sale, and it doesn't lead to a close. It leads to an opening of that relationship.
Well, exactly right. I mean, it's all relationship based. It's all about, and this isn't going to be news to your listeners. It's about investing in putting yourself in the other person's shoes, what I call thinking right side up. So understanding that the business is not about you. The business is about them. The business is about your clients, your customers, your prospects. And that means really putting yourself aside, which is easy to say, and it's a nice kind of platitude. It's surprisingly difficult in practice. And it takes a lot of work and constant attention to get yourself out of the equation so that you can focus on the person on the other side of the table or the person on the other side of the phone.
Yep, because it's kind of like I remember hearing this for the first time from Brian Tracy seminar years and years ago. Everyone's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Exactly right.
If you can advertise, quote unquote, advertise on that station, then you have a better chance of winning. Whereas if you're advertising, if you're doing your public service announcements on that station, now all of a sudden it's about you, and when you look at some of your advertising, and I've done this with people before, and it's like, hey, take a look at your homepage of the website. How many times does the word I or my or we come up? Wow. But if you can flip that around and go, you will enjoy the fact that our team is so experienced, and you will experience being able to put that in their perspective and their mindset is such a huge piece. So I love that right side thinking methodology.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're preaching to the choir here. So
yep.
I agree completely, 100%. It's got to be focused on them. That's what the business is about.
So what would you say there are 1 or 2 mistakes that you see entrepreneurs, consultants consistently make when they're looking to win new customers? Now, I think that, we probably touched on a few of these, but can we, land the plane into here's mistake number 1 I see so frequently, and then a backup would be this one.
Yeah, so you're right. We've touched on them a little bit, and it's funny, when you were talking about this, I was thinking, every day I get like Skype invites or messages, or not Skype, but LinkedIn. Sorry, wrong thing on my mind. Get LinkedIn messages, and someone will say, "Here's all about me. Are you interested?"
Yep.
And I can't delete those fast enough.
Yeah.
So this going and swinging, just sort of shooting, you must want me approach, rarely works. Now, I will often ask people, does this ever work for you? Because I'm trying to find the example that does work, and it just flat out doesn't work, not for the kind of business that we do. So the upside down thinking is a big mistake. The really huge mistake, and I mentioned it before, the most common mistake I see is trying to sell what you want to sell rather than offering what the market wants to buy.
Yeah.
And and people say, well, I need more visibility. I need more exposure. If I could just get in front of more people, basically, if I could get up to bat more, then, oh, wow, I'll be great. But the truth is, most of the time you're up to bat, you're striking out. You're not hitting the ball. And so, she used the baseball metaphor, especially from someone who had a 0 batting average when he was a kid in Little League. I had no impact. I couldn't hit the ball, right? So you have to be able to hit the ball. And a lot of that is talking about what they want to hear about. So that is the biggest problem. And in fact, the biggest predictor of a firm's success, if you're in the professional services at all, if you're offering anything at all, frankly, if you're selling anything at all, the biggest predictor is simply whether the market wants what you offer. If they have an urgent burning need for what you offer, you don't frankly have to be particularly good at selling. They'll buy it. On the other hand, if what you're trying to offer is not what they want, which happens so often, I can't even tell you, it happens so often, then it's a real slog. It is tough. And it sounds like, oh man, this business is so hard. Well, you're making it hard. And it doesn't have to be so hard.
Yep, you're exactly right. And it really does come back down to that research, that discovery. And I know you could probably give 1,000 examples about how a client would initially assume, well, my prospects need X, and they discover, oh, well, they needed Y, and I just never thought that way, or I assumed wrong.
Right. So I'll give you one and your listeners one question to ask, which might be helpful. And this is the question I recommend, and it's not asked often enough. You want to go to your prospects, not to other people in your own industry. You don't ask them. You want to ask people who could actually buy from you. Not a selling question. What you want to ask them is, what problem have you found so important and urgent, expensive to leave unsolved, that you've actually hired someone to help you solve it over the past couple of years? Now, notice that's quite different from saying, would you want this? Or do you have this problem? Do you think you might buy this? Not interested in that. What I want to see is actual behavior. What have people actually spent money on? That's the question that will give you the $1 million right there. What have you actually spent money on in the past?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Mark.
I believe that if people listening can take away one piece from this conversation, that's the one, because you've heard so many times focus groups or surveys where it goes, hey, my Kickstarter widget product is going to do XYZ, would you buy it? And they're like, yeah, we'll buy it. Well, until they swipe that credit card, they're not serious. They're just, blowing smoke in your face going, yes, that's wonderful. But when they buy, that shows they're serious. So when you are asking that question, what problem have you solved recently by hiring a service to try to solve it? And then secondly, probably a follow-up to that was, hey, how long ago was it? And was that completely resolved? Or does that problem still kind of linger in the same, if not a different form?
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. Someone who has purchased something, and whether it's a corporation or an individual, is more likely to purchase that same service or offering or product again than someone else who has not purchased it. Because problems tend to be evergreen. They tend to crop up over and over, and there are very few permanent cures. When someone buys something, what they're showing is an awareness of the problem and a desire to solve that problem. That's who you're looking for. You're looking for the people who have already tried to solve the problem. So you go in there and, you solve it again. That's why the same sorts of books are sold over and over and over again. That's why women's magazines, and maybe men's magazines too, have the same headlines every single month, right? X positions that will make your husband happy, or whatever it is, or your wife happy. Surely after 3 million positions, we should know by now, but it's evergreen. People want to know over and over and over and over again. And it's the same thing for any other kind of product. So look for what people have already bought.
Yep. And actually, maybe when you're talking to someone, assume they've bought, and talk to them about the last time they invested in a program to solve X, and talk through that. What were your expectations? Was it solved? Is it gone now, or do some things linger? I think that would open up the door to say, why don't we try this approach, because I do it a little bit differently, and here's how. So I love that mindset. Let's wrap up with, I've got the copy of your book in my hand. Like I said, dog-eared, underlined, notes in the margins, stars circled. How can people learn more about the book and pick up a copy of it?
Okay, so the book's pretty easy to find on Amazon. Just if you were going to Amazon or whatever bookseller you like and typing Guide to Winning Clients, it will pop up. It's in a lot of airports, actually, if you happen to be in the United States and are flying. there's a decent chance you'll find it at an airport bookstore. Those are probably the easiest ways. And of course, people can visit me on my site, and the books are, I don't prominently feature the books, but they're certainly findable there. And that's just davidafields.com.
Excellent. Well, David, thank you so much for your time today. It was so great getting to know you and talking about these important topics.
Yeah, thank you for asking insightful questions.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.